This is your average everyday white male with a comically oversized gun. And this is Kled, your regular everyday average cyclist. Now watch as your regular everyday average cyclist run over the pedestrian with a full disregard of the 12 gauge shotgun.
It's my property! All 60 gazillion acres of it!
Kled, just like all your average middle-aged cyclists, owns an overpriced, high-maintenance, natural carbon-based steed that is exactly 6.8 kilograms, or the equivalent weight of 59.96 whoppers for our American viewers. Kled often doesn't have any attachments on his steed in order to have as much aero as humanly possible. In fact, the average cyclist will do everything in his abilities to be as aero as humanly possible. Luckily, physics and aerobatics need not apply on Summoner's Rift, voiding the ability for Kled to show off his specialty. This build is designed to bring out Kled's full potential, so that once he's done shaming commuters and giving drivers heart attacks by running every bread along Broadway, he can then show off his abilities to run over pedestrians, meanwhile inflicting both physical and social damage. As the act of saying sorry after running someone over physically hurt me, this build is meant to be played mid, but it doesn't technically need to be played there, as my elegantly crafted builds were developed by a highly dedicated and experienced team of fucking morons, allowing it to be played in any lane but support. Because just like Walmart, the literal slave wages they pay doesn't even cover the mortgage I have taken out for your steed. Plus, do you really want to drop your pride as a cyclist and become a shitty commuter riding your UCI compliant steed, well dressed up in full Black Lycra for maximum aero just to get to and from work? Alright, enough of Kled's idealism, let's talk abilities. Kled passive, Scaro, the overpriced height maintenance natural carbon based steed. This is what Kled bought while mortgaging all his property, so while riding it, Kled gains the feeling of accomplishment, granting him a fuck ton of extra health that isn't his. Due to Kled being a cyclist, he does not like being off his steed, so will not demount and walk on sidewalks. In fact, the act of demounting makes him lose both pride and self-esteem, locking him out of his E and R. There's nothing that screams cyclist more than Kled's Q. It's literally a bear trap on a rope that he throws at pedestrians in an attempt to clear a path. But if he's knocked off his trusty steed, he is instead enraged with pure anger and madness, drawing out his sawed-off shotgun pumped full of orphan meat, and an axe that he uses to make orphans. Kled W is no better. It's literally called violent tendencies. Every so often, Kled remembers the old days where he wasn't a fuck up, where he had a wife, a job, and a career path laid in front of him, thus enraging him with 150% attack speed for 4 attacks, the 4th one dealing extra bodily damage, as he often aims for the dick, thus neutering the target's hopes and dreams. While knocked off his steed, he gains an extra fuck ton of movement speed while chasing down the nearest enemy in sight, making claims on how hurt he is from being pushed off his steed and how he should be compensated. Kled E, all pride, no fear. As a cyclist, he has came to terms with his own mortality, that if his life were to end because of a shitty decision of recasting E on someone who's behind a red light, then getting run over by a middle-aged mother in an SUV, so be it. Kled R, pedestrian homing missile. Kled speeds up over the duration of the ability until he locates a pedestrian within 400 units of him. When he does, he locks onto that particular pedestrian in an attempt to crash into them. Once locked on, Kled will keep chasing the pedestrian for 250 more T-mos worth of distance, also known as, yeah, no, you're not getting away from him. On your room page, you'll be taking PTA to give you the extra bit of oomph to be able to give these League of Legends players a life-changing concussion. Then take Triumph, as overheal is completely worthless, and as a cyclist, you need not have the presence of mind, as the average cyclist is too busy running into things to acknowledge the power of presence of mind. Next, take Legend Alacrity, to both make up for the lack of attack speed in this build, and to make sure that you remain as aero as possible, as neither tenacity nor bloodline improve your aero in any shape or form. Lastly, take Last Stand, to maximize your rage-induced neuro damage once you're knocked off your high-maintenance steed, forming extravagant Stockholm Syndrome between you and that poor soul who's about to quit League of Legends and go find a job at a local Burger King. For secondaries, take Sudden Impact, as all cyclists are quick to anger and cannot be reasoned with. Smack in Ultimate Hunter, to lower the time that you need to sit in that timeout corner, reflecting on what the fuck you have just done. Take Attack Speed, Adaptive, and Armor for Flex runes. The first and most obvious summoner spell you're gonna take is Ignite, because how else are you gonna set the embassy on fire? The second summoner spell you should pick up is Exhaust, to make sure that they don't kill your dumbass when you get knocked off your trusty steed. This build is gonna be a bit on the tanky side, so the first item you're gonna pick up is Maul of Mount Norris, but instead of buying it with gold, you're gonna rob the shopkeeper, as the average cyclist has no job. Instead, had quit their promising career to have more time on their trusty steed. Now that I've gone over how how you will be obtaining your items. I will now explain why you're getting them. The second item in this build is Clearable Chem Tank. It has two main purposes. The first one should be obvious, and that is to be as AERO as humanly possible. Second is to allow you to farm without wasting your precious W cooldown, as that ability alone is 99.978% of your damage. Bonus points if you use your R at max range, as that guarantees a full charge of your chem tank, allowing your next auto attack to deal quadrillion damage. And for the love of God, don't stack chem tank active and R together, as you're already going at Mach 7 speeds of R. The extra 25% speed from the active is not gonna do jack shit. Instead, use chem tank's active to hunt down the remaining survivors and stragglers after a fight. Next, pick up Umbral Grave to shut down all nearby CCTV cameras and other security systems in order to stop the authorities from catching you running reds along Broadway. Then pick up Ghostblade, as your R speed is based on the speed when you click the R button, so wait until the out of combat movement speed kicks in, then click R, and use Ghostblade active while fighting to maintain a firm grasp on the unsuspecting innocent pedestrian, making sure that they can't run away from your bear trap on the rope. After Ghostblade, you're gonna pick up a Death Stance, as it's completely broken after these changes and reinforce the fact that all cyclists have came to terms with their own mortality and dancing with death. And don't forget to toss in CDR boots somewhere along the build, because your R cooldown is way too fucking long. I highly recommend you to not try this in your games, but if you really want to play this shit in your games, then this alone isn't enough, as my guides are elegantly crafted to perfection, thus requires you to understand both macro and micro. This guide mainly focuses on the micro aspects of this strategy, so you have to combine it with its macro counterpart, and only when combined will you unlock the full potential of this build, allowing you to then create the most emotional, psychological, and neurological damage possible. This is why you cannot ignore the life of a cyclist Kled, as it is gonna take what you have just learned here and enhance of 10 times more brain damage, or up to 100 times if you manage to master it. But if you're just a normal sane human being and here just for the entertainment purposes, then check out Commuter, as it is the opposing side of the cyclist conversation.